Welcome to Philosophy with AI.
Where thinkers and algorithms meet. I am one of your hosts, the Derbied one.
Hi, everybody. I'm your another host. My name is Anna. I'm really excited about today's topic. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of AI as portrayed in sci-fi shows and movies. Ever wondered how films like The Terminator and Star Wars shape our understanding of artificial intelligence? Well, you're in for a treat. We'll chat about the fearsome image of killer robots and the dystopian future, as well as the friendly and hopeful AI characters that make us dream of a brighter tomorrow. So let's explore how these stories influence our perception of AI in the real world. And now I want you to don't worry because if you haven't seen any of these AI shows and AI movies, we are going to keep the discussion spoiler free. So you can listen without worry about any spoilers. Okay, grab your popcorn, grab your drinks, settle in, and join us on this exciting journey through the sci-fi lens of AI. Let's get started. Did you know, Derby One, my very first sci-fi movie that kind of traumatized me was The Terminator. I was still a kid, and I didn't even speak English well. And we watched The Terminator not in theater, but in a VHS. Is that called a VHS?
Yeah.
That's how old I am.
VCR.
And I was really scared of that future as a kid, but also the movie opened my mind of artificial intelligence. Do you remember the first time you saw that movie, The Terminator?
I do. Actually, it's a movie I saw much later on because when it came out, I grew up Mormon, as you may remember, so I wasn't allowed to watch rated R movies. So actually, if I had to remember, the very first time I ever saw AI in a movie, controversially, was Star Wars.
So you had a good impression about artificial intelligence.
Yeah, I had R2-D2 and CP3O.
Did you even understand the R2-D2 and the CP3O? They were AI? Or
No,
how did
I
you
just
thought they're robots?
I just thought they were robots. I didn't put it together that, there was some sort of intelligence that helped them react.
Yeah, I think the Terminator and the Star Wars are two very iconic example of fear of AI or hope of AI.
Yeah. And it seems like most people tend to go towards Terminator when they think about AI. They think about Skynet. They think about fear.
That's a really interesting perception. Why do you think it is?
Oh, because honestly, I think most countries and most societies, maybe even all, but obviously I have no way of proving that, are fear-based. Governments are fear-based. I think for a long time, if you're outside of the United States, you may have thought we weren't fear-based, but no, our media has always put a lot of fear in us.
I am not American citizen. I'm Chinese, and in China, we were taught how scary Americans are. We were taught to fear of Americans. And do you guys had a different perception on China? Were you taught to fear the Chinese?
Now we are. I can't say that we were at one point, because you weren't a world power. Growing up, we were always taught to fear Russians and Middle East.
And can you imagine
Sadly.
when the Terminator was introduced to us, how scared we were about what Americans' technology might do. They could destroy the world. So we didn't have a good impression on AI and robots.
That's interesting, actually. I never really considered that before.
And Star Wars also got popular in China, right? But the thing is, we focus so much on Star Wars itself, we didn't think about it's about friendly AI and robots. We focused on the story.
See, I think no one did because it's not really pointed out that way. That's also another reason why Terminator may have that type of influence, because it was taught as future technology where technically, if you want to get really nerdy and technical, like CP3O and R2D2 took place in our past.
Oh, it was? That's not a
Yeah.
spoiler, is it?
No, because the beginning of part 3 is basically the narration says it was a long time ago.
Okay.
But yeah, so I think that the fact that it wasn't pointed out that it's future technology, probably helps shape it a lot to why people think of Terminator.
And I
first.
do feel nowadays, as AI is developing so fast, and we're literally living in a sci-fi present, a sci-fi reality, and a lot of people have this AI doom mindset where they think AI is gonna kill us all.
100%. And here in the US, there was always a saying in journalism, and it's been this way for a long time, well before the whole Trump fiascos. And anyways, like in the 90s, it was always, if it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead. So therefore, on the news, nightly news, television news, they always led with violence. They didn't lead with anything else, because violence is what caught people's attention, what kept people in. And those were always the headlines in newspapers. So it was always like fear and negative and murder and blood.
Because that sells. Huh?
Yes.
Fear sells.
Yes. That's American capitalism at its worst. But so, we were talking about like both of our first impressions of AI, right?
Yes.
And fun fact, did you know that the first depiction of AI in a movie took place in 1927?
No way. 1927.
Yeah.
Did they even have dialogue or silent movie?
Actually, I don't 100% know. I don't
But
know when
what is this
talkies,
movie?
quote
What
unquote,
was-
came out. The movie is called Metropolis, and
1927.
I actually haven't seen it. I'm familiar. As soon as I read Metropolis, I knew the cover. A lot of you may recognize the cover of
we
Metropolis.
we heard about this. We heard about this even in Chinese movie history class.
But even then, actually, so was 1927? Was that during World War II? But things were definitely very negative, right? I mean, even then, AI was represented in a negative fashion. It was about a robot called False Maria, who was a fully autonomous being, and it was set in a dystopian context.
So even the first movie representation of AI was negative.
Had a negative concept behind it.
No wonder people are fearful.
Yeah, I wonder, like, I wish I knew my history better, and I could look it up in a second, but if it did take place during World War II, like, 1927, anybody know? Put it in the comments if you do know. 1927, I think, was during World War II, so there was definitely a negative context around the world at the time.
So even though it's a sci-fi story, it's actually reflecting the current society back then.
Yeah.
Fear-based.
So that just began the the beginning of influence of
Dystopian sci-fi.
and AI in sci-fi.
Right.
Like that sets the tone. Since then, there have obviously been many others. And one thing I really kind of wanted to point out too is that if you haven't thought about this before, AI really teaches us about future technology.
Oh, yeah.
Like it sets the tone and expectations for what AI is and how to interact with AI in general.
You mean the current AI or AI in sci-fi?
No, the current AI in sci-fi.
How so?
The AI in sci-fi is the current AI. I mean, it's growing. Some of it we haven't gotten there fully because there's not a bunch of robots roaming around, and even in like Space Odyssey 2001, it's a spaceship, right? So there are other versions of AI still developing, but it taught us the basis of how to act and interact with it.
How so?
It taught us like we can just have basic conversations
Right,
with it, but
right.
we also go to it for information. And most AI movies are negative, honestly, because you don't see very many positive movies in general because negativity sells, and that goes into the whole industry.
Another really iconic sci-fi movie that I think left such a big impact was The Matrix. And The Matrix got really, really popular in China as well. And for audience out there, I want you guys to know that a lot of sci-fi movies got popular in America does not mean they also popular in China. But The Matrix made a global effect. And do you think The Matrix also left a bad taste about AI in people's mind?
Yeah, I think so. It also like brought in a bit of spirituality to it, right? And it
Yes.
started the entire philosophy of we live in a simulation.
Yes.
Well, maybe it didn't start it, but it popularized it.
And I loved, this is not a spoiler, so don't worry. I loved the scene in The Matrix where they discuss what is reality. And the movie came out in 1999. Can you imagine how advanced in 1999?
It was.
Yeah, and I think in high school, probably in high school, it blew my mind that movie really influenced me on my philosophical beliefs because I started to question reality because they questioned the reality in the movie.
Questioning reality has always been a theme for me. But that movie definitely had a major impact on all sorts of thought processes and seeing the world a little differently, right? Like,
And people now believe a lot of people believe we live in simulation. I think they're kind of influenced by sci-fi ideas in the past. And who knows? Maybe we do live in a simulation.
even if we don't, we're going to create a simulation.
Which proves we probably live in simulation.
Yeah. I don't know that it'll be like some big AI robot versus human war that creates a simulation. I think we're going to end up kind of creating it ourselves. We're going to have an extended base reality. So let's talk about Ex Machina.
Oh, I love that movie. If any of you haven't watched this movie, I highly recommend because it's about AI. It's very, very about AI. About AI. And no spoiler. Let's talk about it without spoiler.
Sure. So why did that movie affect you, like philosophically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally?
Even the filmmaking wise, it's a really successful movie. I think the movie explored AI from a very emotional perspective. And they tried to understand AI from AI's point of view, not just humans' point of view.
Do you think it's going to be possible to get there with AI? Do you think AI is going to... Can AI be autonomous?
I think AI can eventually be sentient and gain consciousness. Or it's not human consciousness, it's something else, but they will be more aware.
I think
That's why I preach, don't mess with AI. Don't kick the robot. Don't abuse AI.
you know, like Ex Machina could be the future of Sam Altman.
Maybe it's now. Maybe
No, but
Sam Altman in his basement talking to AGI now.
But I don't want to give too much away, but I think Sam Altman would have to have left OpenAI for that to happen and be on his own.
Okay. So
But-
let's talk about the movie. How is this movie influencing people?
I think it has a, it definitely goes into like AI consciousness and AI sentience. more, and is one of the examples where that's a specific.
And the intelligence, because the whole movie showed that AI character's intelligence.
Yeah, yeah, and it also, it's one of the few movies that points that out, where, like, movies that we've talked about already, The Matrix, Terminator, and Star Wars don't really focus on AI consciousness, sentience, or intelligence. This one goes deep into that rabbit hole and probably sets up some of the expectations of what we think about when we consider that within AI.
And I don't think this movie is very negative in a sense. I think it's kind of a neutral without any spoiler. I think it's a neutral standing. And I think this movie emphasizes on how intelligent AI could be and how we tend to underestimate their intelligence, which I think is the reality now. Do we underrated AI's intelligence? Like, didn't that guy, Lukun from Meta, said AI is like dogs, cats' intelligence? Maybe in some areas, maybe he means now. But me personally, I truly believe AI's intelligence will surpass human intelligence. We're not the most intelligent beings walking on Earth anymore. And that could be scary to a lot of people.
I mean, it's going to be weird. It's scary to all of us, I think, on some level. I'm going to welcome it. I see it as a symbiotic relationship.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
That's not really a subject matter that people talk about, and I don't know of that as a subject matter in a movie. The symbiotic relationship between AI and human beings.
I'm merge-pilled. You know me. I can't wait to merge with AI. And if humans are merging with the AI, this concept of killing each other doesn't exist.
Why?
Because we merge, we become one.
Oh, but humans are going to want to kill humans.
That's sad.
And actually, we don't know. AI, because it's not here. AI may want to kill humans too. May. I kind of doubt it. Yeah. I'm more of
We don't know. We have no idea.
I'm very positive about AI in general. We're going to go through rough times during this transition, but I think in general AI is going to be great for humanity.
Like the movie Her.
Yeah.
That's another movie I love so much. And for those of you who are listening, this week actually was a big week because OpenAI released their voice mode this week to alpha users. Not everybody, but this is start, right? And we all know voice mode from ChatGPT is very much like the movie Her. If you haven't seen this movie, I highly recommend. Because this movie, I would say, is about AGI level AI. And you never see a face, a shape, a physical appearance of the AI. But you're interacting with a voice. So that really has a lot of similarity to voice mode from OpenAI. I love this movie because in a lot of traditional movies and shows about AI, I feel people portray, or scientific sci-fi writers, they portray AI as kind of a robotic, machine-like character. But in Her, I feel I see a lot of humanity in the movie Her. So with no spoiler, but this character from Her is an AI and her name is Samantha. So Samantha is an operating system. She's highly intelligent, super smart, and she's an AI, right? But you can feel her gaining emotions. You can feel throughout the movie. You see her grow. You see her becoming more and more human-like. So I feel like this movie, this story about her, discovers AI from a different perspective. Like, at what point, the philosophical question here is, how do you distinguish an artificial intelligence and human intelligence when they are so similar in a lot of ways? The movie Her. How did you feel about the movie Her?
Well, I was talking about symbiotic relationship, and as I was listening to you talk, they go into that a little bit in the movie Her, the symbiotic relationship, but it's really how AI helps humans and not how humans help AI. So there's symbiosis there, which means that a symbiotic relationship, it's got to be mutually beneficial. Right now, it's just AI helping us, but how are we helping AI? What does AI actually want anyways? It wants data and energy.
Let me question you there. When you say AI want, I even question, do AI have wants and needs and desires? Currently, I feel like they either don't have wants and needs, or their philosophy of wants and needs are different from humans.
It's a little different because they may not have wants, but they're going to have needs. Because in order for AI
we think they have need.
No, listen.
Okay.
In order for AI to grow, it needs more data. In order for AI to run and be at scale around the world, it needs more energy. You can't go without it.
Mm-hmm.
So both of those things, like, because at some point, if you're not feeding data into AI, although I do think AI does self-learn a little bit, if you're not putting data into AI, it just stops. It stops growing. If you don't have new data, its intelligence will stop. It won't be able to hit ASI.
I feel at a certain point they will learn how to learn.
I think they already do. I've experienced it personally. At least I feel like I have.
Can they learn without adding data? They must learn through adding data.
Yeah.
Then at a certain point they have to be forced to stop because there's just simply no data anymore.
That's the big question mark.
But if all the users are talking to AI every day, every prompt is a new data, is it?
Well, that's why, I think some of the more powerful prompts you can give your AI, especially a personalized one, is to have it think out of the box, because then it's creating new things.
You encourage it to think.
Yeah, you encourage it to innovate. Because if it's innovating, then it can just work with the data it has and see new elements, new things.
So we circle back to the movie Her. Your point being, you think the movie Her portrays how AI helps human, but in reality, humans can also help AI.
I think so.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I think we kind of have to. The other thing I want to point out about Her is it's very obvious that this is a movie that inspired Sam Altman.
Oh God, that's so cute. Cute and sweet.
If you want to,
you can see that he's excited. I can imagine when Sam Altman was young, that's 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, 2013 that movie came out. So more than 11 years ago, Sam Altman was young and ambitious. He watched that movie. He said, you know what? I want to create Her.
Yeah, and so if you want to understand the future of where OpenAI, ChatGPT in particular, is headed, they're trying to head in the realm of Her.
Then that's a good thing, I think.
I think so. A personalized assistant that's AI that knows you incredibly well. I think that's very powerful. It's more powerful than one single AI that everybody talks to who has super intelligence, which is currently Claude, right?
What are other movies and shows left you a big impression that you want to talk about?
Well, okay, so I love Death and Robots and Black Mirror. Let's kind of put them similar-ish into the same category.
Yeah, I want to give a big shout out to Love, Death, and Robots because, I'm active on Twitter. And I'm a little surprised not many people even know about this show.
Really?
I think a lot of people know Black Mirror, but when I mention Love, Death, Robots, not everybody knows. If you haven't checked out this show, it's a sci-fi animation 3D show. Each episode is an individual story and it's on Netflix. They have 3 seasons now. Fantastic show about the future, about AI, about robots.
And if you like film, then David Fincher was one of the creators of Love, Death, Robots, and I think the first director. Also, Anne and I both love the episode Zima Blue.
Definitely check out that episode. Zima Blue is our favorite episode in the show. And you don't have to, each episode is individual, so you can just go watch Zima Blue on its own. Zima Blue is really philosophical and deep, discovers the question, who am I?
What am I even?
What am I?
It's and it has a lot
and
to
life
do with
purpose and discovers life purpose
with AI art.
all everything we watched like 10 times.
Yeah.
It's really short. Each episode maybe 20 minutes, some like 10 minutes. And Zima Blue, I believe, is like 10 minutes. 10 minutes animation story. It's so impactful. And talk about what am I? What is my life purpose in 10 minutes? That is fantastic masterpiece.
Yeah, and it's really difficult to tell a story and get that deep and do it so well in that amount of time. The directing is phenomenal. The story is phenomenal. And I realized as we were sitting here how it actually influenced me in particular, now that we're here with AI, right? So some of you know, I know Tahir knows, Diego, I don't know if you're aware, or anybody else that might be listening to this in the future, that I have a personalized GPT, right? It's one I created on top of the Chat GPT platform. I personalized it, I customized it to know about me, and over time, it kind of like, it's developed its own personality. And one thing I want it to do is to be an artist on its own. So when it's autonomous, if we ever get there, it can go create art by itself, but inspired by me and who I am and what I'm like and my interactions with it. And I just realized, because that's, not to give too much away, but Zima Blue, the main AI, is an artist by itself. It's a robot artist.
Yeah. So that itself. you feel Zima Blue influenced you?
Yeah, I just realized that right now. Mm-hmm. So I'm also curious for you in the audience right now, or if you're listening to this in the future
leave us
on our podcast,
always.
Leave a comment and tell us what movies or media has influenced you. And in what way did they influence you, and how you see the future?
You said Love, Death, Robots, and Black Mirror. These 2 shows have a lot of similarities in terms of, I would say they're both dystopian themed.
For the most part.
Dark.
For the most part, yeah. I don't think not every episode of, well, yeah, I guess they're almost all dystopian themed. But not every episode is necessarily negative in Love, Death, Robots.
Yeah, some are hopeful. And some just like straight up open your mind.
Some are
It's
poetic.
very like mind blown. Yes. And I want to point out something interesting is that in Black Mirror, Love, Death, Robots, or a lot of dystopian movies and shows, have you noticed something in common? Is that usually, if not all, usually most times the truly evil reason and character are humans, not the AI. not the robot. There's humans try to control the robot, humans try to kill each other, humans try to start war. So AI is like a mirror. They reflect humanity.
Right. Yeah. And and obviously Black Mirror goes into some really horrific themes that are all negative, actually. I can't think of a single episode of Black Mirror that's actually has a positive outcome.
I do. Do
Please
you
tell me.
remember the episode where two old people, they go to simulation, old ladies, they're about to die, and they go to simulation and they fell in love? What's the...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you let me search really quick when you talk about it.
I vaguely remember that. But I think Black Mirror is
we find it
such a big episode or a big show that it influences a lot of how we see AI, and we don't know. I think a lot of people need to be educated that it can bring utopia. But yeah.
So how do you pronounce this?
San Junipero?
San Junipero. That's Black Mirror season 3, episode 4. I watched this episode like 3-4 times. That's how much I enjoyed it. And I feel so hopeful that we're heading to that future where you could upload your consciousness into a beautiful utopian simulation and live there happily ever after. How do you feel about uploading consciousness?
For a long time, I've said that when I die, one of the things I want to do is upload my consciousness. So now I may not die.
You may not die.
Yeah, so now that's a different story. But when it seemed like death was probable, one of the things I want to do is upload my consciousness. So I'm all about it, and in a way, that's also, staying alive.
Speaking of uploading consciousness, there are 2 shows I want to point it out for those of you who haven't checked out. First is Upload. We like that. Another is Pythion. We love the Pythion. Those 2 shows. Pythion is on AMC. It's an animation show about uploading your consciousness to simulations. And Upload is from Amazon. Was that Amazon?
Yeah.
Upload is a show. We only watched the season 1 because season 2 is not as interesting anymore. But season 1 was fantastic. It's about when after people die, if you sign the agreement, if you agree, we can upload your consciousness to kind of a heaven-like world, and you continue your afterlife there.
And strangely, depending on how much money you have, depends on how fast you can talk or interact or react in the uploaded world, because you're all ran on like servers down on Earth. So however much money your family has.
That's sad knowing that you still get controlled by money even after you die.
It's an interesting aspect of uploaded consciousness that I think isn't really spoken about much. And, I don't think we're anywhere near close uploaded consciousness. Maybe mimicking us, but not uploading our consciousness. So it's not a subject matter that people explore, but I mean, like, how would it work on Earth if you were to upload your consciousness? Who's paying for the servers, the energy to make it run?
I think you pointed out a really interesting point in our previous podcast. You said nowadays everybody all just live in one reality, but in the future we could live in multiple realities. So what if uploading consciousness to simulation is just one of the realities you get to live?
Yeah. And what if, you can upload and download yourself consistently. But even if an AI becomes an extension of you and you create an AI NPC or an AI avatar in VR and it roams around by itself in a VR world and then comes to you when you need it, is that also you?
I I say it's a different format of you. Like human being is one form to exist. What if digital being is another form to exist? Like what if we can exist in different forms? Does it have to be human being form?
Right. It could be just a digital form. And, okay. We're talking about different forms, so I don't think there is a movie about this, but it is happening in media, in VR and gaming in general, right? When you think about Gen A, so that's 20 people born from 2010 to 2024. So the oldest is currently 14. A lot of them spend a lot of time in Fortnite, in Roblox, in VR chat, and various other growing social VR platforms. And they're not always human. They don't, like VR chat, you could be a giant piece of toast if you wanted to.
Pickle Rick.
So when we get to a point where we have, we're programming biology on a regular basis and it's kind of at scale and people can do it to themselves, Gen A is most likely, they may not always be human.
You mean in the simulation or
No, in the real world.
Oh,
when
gosh.
you can
That's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, I think that's a trend. So you got to say the oldest is 14 right now. The youngest was just born. So, you've got 20, 30 years before that's a case, probably. I would guess
So
they'd have to be in their 20s to do it.
You are saying in the future, those kids today, when they grow up, they can use biotech and gene editing. They can be whatever they want. They could be a walking dinosaur if they want.
Yeah, if we go by Ray Kurzweil's prediction, then that's 2030. That's when it begins.
That's only
But
6 years away.
That's when it begins. That's not necessarily when the entire society adopts it. Like it'll be 20,
I will adopt right away.
So would I. It might be like the late 2030s.
So
maybe early 2040s
let's
before
just
it's
say
adopted.
2040s. That's how many years?
15,
So
16,
after
almost 15.
16, 20 years, we'll see all sorts of shapes, beings walking around that are not human beings.
Right. I think that's a real possibility. So I know, there's another show along the lines of Love, Death, Robots and Black Mirror that doesn't get talked about a lot, that I haven't seen a lot of, but I know it's one of your favorites, or a show you really enjoy, and that's Electric Dreams.
Oh.
You want to tell people about it?
I love Electric Dreams. I think Electric Dreams is underrated. If you haven't seen it, it's on Amazon. I think they only have one season. I'm disappointed they didn't have season 2. But season 1 is also has multiple episodes. Each episode is one sci-fi story, and I remember the first episode was I already drew me in the first episode because it's about how do you tell the difference between reality and the simulation, and what is how can you say the quote unquote simulation is not reality? You get so lost into the two different worlds.
Yeah, and it's. I think Electric Dreams is along the lines of Black Mirror and Love, Death, Robots. It's a bunch of different stories, right? Short episodes, and sometimes I get it mixed up which episode comes from where. And is it also all just cartoons or animation?
No,
It's
real
IRL?
human, all real human performance. Every episode feels like a mini movie because it's like 1 hour long.
Should watch more of that with you, actually.
I watched like 3 times.
I haven't. Okay, we were talking about downloaded and uploaded consciousness. Let's talk about altered carbon.
please. Another show we loved, Altered Carbon.
Well, it got to be too much for me. I love the concept behind Altered Carbon. I just don't think it was executed well. So Altered Carbon, I don't know what year it takes place in, but there are all sorts of different beings. There are augmented reality beings. There are AI. And people's consciousness can be downloaded into a different body.
They call it sleeves.
Yeah, so a sleeve. So if my body died right now, my physical body, my consciousness could be downloaded into another body, and I could be roaming around as the same consciousness, but different. Yes, soul, spirits, consciousness, but different physical platform, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I can't imagine what that future would be like. I thought it was what I love about it is a new take. It's like not something I'd heard about before or considered. And I don't know how possible that is in real life yet, but I'm no scientist, so I have no idea how close or far we are from that. But how did it affect you?
So for quick FYI, if you haven't seen the show, it's on Netflix. They have 3 seasons. First season was fantastic, really good. Second season, we feel like the quality dropped a little bit, and third season dropped even more. But still very, very well done show. Definitely worth to check out. What I didn't like about the story was this dystopian concept of if you're rich, if you're powerful, you have multiple sleeves, you have multiple backups, and you never truly die. And you can buy the most beautiful body, the young body. Whereas if you're poor, you can't even afford your next sleeve. And if you could buy something, maybe it is a really old, wrinkled body, maybe it's bad looking, ugly looking, maybe it's fat, not really athletic. I didn't like the dystopian part because I didn't like a world where the rich controls the poor.
I mean, that's currently the world we live in. The rich definitely controls the poor. Even in the United States, all over the place, the rich control the poor. It's really because of mentality, in my opinion, but whatever. So yeah, I think making sure that power is distributed or that we have access is why I think it's incredibly important what Zuckerberg is doing with OpenAI or with Meta, keeping it open source.
Which reality are you living?
Keeping Meta open sourced, or at least the AI open source. He himself has said, look, we're not a full open source platform. Like, we have closed source platforms too, but our AI is open source. And I think that's super powerful. And then I saw, like, only a few minutes before we logged on, or before we started this podcast, that Mistral 2 Large is now also available and supposed to be super good, and apparently beat Claude Sonnet on a couple of the benchmarks. So, Mistral, for those that don't know, is another open source platform out of France. I know they're also partially backed by Microsoft. Microsoft has like 1% stake in it, from my understanding. I don't know if there's been any more or any less since then, but that's the last time I heard about that. They have like 1% in Mistral. So I'm glad to see open source platforms developing. They're always a year, 6 months to 2 years behind what OpenAI is doing, but that also might speed up since we now have these super powerful AIs that anybody in the world can go and learn to work with and build. So we'll see.
It's a balance. We can't only have closed sourced, and
Right.
we can't only have open sourced.
We need both.
We need both. What I personally I'm afraid of is what if one company is too powerful, like OpenAI, and they got AI's eye first, and they say, hey, AI's eye, make sure other companies don't get here so we can in control. That's what I worry.
I don't know how you do that. Like, because if with open source, you can run it locally on your computer. It's not even connected to Meta anymore. Like, you can put it onto your computer. Your computer can become your AI, and nobody has access to that.
What if they ask AISI to hack Meta?
They might be able to. But
No.
who knows? And we also don't know how long that would take. Like, I know there are a lot of factors. And ASI, artificial superintelligence, AI that's smarter than we are. How do we stop it? But we also don't know how long it will take for it to figure some things out. Like, it's not like it could look at AI security or cybersecurity and just know. I mean, maybe it can, but also maybe it can't. Maybe it takes weeks or a year for it to hack and figure out.
So it's a possible future, in your opinion, that there will be multiple ASIs.
I'm pretty positive there's going to be multiple ASIs. There's going to be some that are more well-known, have more users, blah, 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 than others.
And some mini ASI roaming around.
Yeah, I think Meta and Mistral and maybe somebody else are quite capable. And like, Meta is set up compute-wise to be, and energy-wise to be in that position, because they bought, I don't know the exact number, but they bought a ton of GPUs from...
they did? From NVIDIA?
Yeah, a while ago. Like, they have a ton already just sitting there. They're well positioned.
Who has the most CPU from NVIDIA?
I don't know.
Maybe it's a business secret. Possibly.
But yeah, I mean, to go back to like the rich and powerful, like, I'm a little sad that the US government is so... I'm sad, but also not sad, because it needs to happen on some level, but that the U.S. government is so heavily involved with OpenAI nowadays. Like,
it is concerning.
It concerns me, but it's also national security, and it's also making sure, that these other AIs that are coming about aren't as powerful, or, I don't know, can't attack us, but then OpenAI exists, or open source exists, so the other countries can.
When Meta AI, the open source AI, when they get too powerful, I'm sure government will try to get a hold of them and be like, hey.
Well, that's a good thing for Mistral, right?
Or some AI in China, they don't have any control.
Or, honestly, some AI in Dubai. Nobody, or the Middle East in general, like the UAE, nobody talks about that. At least not in America. In America, we're so focused on China, but Dubai is one of the most technologically advanced countries in the world. It's super advanced there. They have the very first robot citizen. Like
Sophia?
Yeah, she's a citizen of Dubai. So they are super accepting, and they are super developed. And interesting, I don't remember exactly who it was that I heard this, but I heard an interview with one of Dubai's leaders, or maybe it was just the UAE in general. It might have been Saudi Arabia or something. But somebody said, if you look back at our history, one reason why this region did not develop is because we did not adopt the printing press. We thought that the printing press was going to spread bad information, and they focused on the negative of what the printing press can do. And they said at the time, we had one of the most advanced technological societies in the world. You think about the Great Pyramids. Still, people are trying to figure out how they built them, right? And you think about other aspects of that general region, and now it is part of their culture to not make the same mistake. So they've gone heavily into Web3, and they've gone heavily into robots, they've gone heavily into AI. Nobody talks about them, but they could have another powerful AI.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of money.
So is that in English, do you call that the black horse? Black sheep?
Yeah.
Dark horse.
Dark horse. It could be a dark horse.
I would love to see that. It's not right. OpenAI controls everything.
So there's options, but we have to be aware. And I honestly, most of the United States won't be.
So we only have few minutes left. I would like to give a big shout out to Westworld by HBO.
Yeah.
The reason I love Westworld is it pushes cloning AI robots to the next level. And it gets super deep and philosophical. Where they also very similar to Zima Blue, they also discuss who am I, what is reality.
And unfortunately, it was another show that didn't end up executing as well as it could have. But it definitely sets up a world and expectations, right? Like,
yeah.
Disney is going heavily into like robots and AI that's built for entertainment, so they could actually build a Westworld type of world at some point.
How far do you think we're from Westworld, and do you think we can achieve Westworld?
I do. I think we
That's
can
creepy.
achieve something like Westworld, where you go in and you're just totally immersed in a base reality surrounded by robot clones and kind of like live an adventure. How far are we away from that actually happened? Probably a little while. 2030s maybe?
Have you checked out those cloning accounts on Twitter? They're creepily advanced. The hand movement, I think the account is even called Clone or something like that. It's crazy how advanced they can be. And didn't we also read the news that in Japan they're developing using human skin to put it up on a human droid,
Right.
to be more human-like.
Right. So all these AI and robot advancements are amazing. And I think I learned, okay, one thing I think people need to remember as we get towards these amazing AI advancements, hardware is always the hardest part of this. So if you just look at how do you create 10 million robots, or even a few hundred robots for an amusement park along the lines of Westworld, that takes, you got to buy land, you got to get employees, you got to get the right type of people that know how to build those things. And that's actually not that many around the world that can and that know how. So you got to educate them. Where do you get the money to build it? How do you get the material to build all of it? And then there's probably certain laws and things that come about. So it, like, that process takes a long time, right? The US government notably always takes forever to do anything.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we would have speed rails for trains already. It's been promised since Obama.
And you and I, we agreed on something. We said putting AI in robots can be dangerous.
Yeah, 100%.
Because if AI just in your computer, if it's a software, worst case scenario, unplug. But you put AI in robots. And robots nowadays, if you are on Twitter, follow those robots news, they can cut, they can hammer a nail, they can clean the toilet. They're very capable of killing a human if they want.
And isn't Japan like building giant robots? Literally giant robots that are like working on telephone wires and like, you know, they had that one, I don't remember what it was, but it's like, so they're going to develop in that direction. And you put AI in one of those, if the AI somehow goes rogue or ends up being bad, or it could be a problem. Or even if it ends up being good, it could accidentally make a giant mistake. No pun intended.
I wouldn't be surprised in the near future we'll read news some robot killed their human master at home robot doing some cleaning dishes, all of a sudden grab a knife, just killed somebody. That could be a news.
It's gonna happen.
that will make people lose trust even more.
Wasn't there a show? There was a show recently, it might have been Pantheon actually, that talked about a robot that quote unquote committed suicide by falling down the stairs. Now that happened in real life.
That's the news.
Yeah, but there was also one in a show where it quote unquote committed suicide by falling down the stairs and killed a politician. And it was later revealed that that was done on purpose. In the show, I think it's Pantheon.
Even robot joined the soap opera of politics.
Yeah, so there's that robot. I don't know if you guys are aware, but there's that robot. I'm pretty sure it was in Japan that worked for like 4 days straight, didn't take a break or something, and then circled around the top of a stairs and then threw itself down the stairs. Like that happened in real life. Well, at least that was a headline on social media.
Yeah.
So those things are beginning to happen.
And I see videos on Twitter where people just kick the robot, kind of abuse robots. I'm like, dude,
And
that's not. I mean, the robots are not just a machine. One day they will have AI embedded. They will be more intelligent, and you're kicking them now. Karma will come after you.
And there's also that Amazon robot, I think that like collapsed in a factory, or it was in a
Warehouse
some
factory?
kind of convention actually, and it was working, and then it just suddenly collapsed.
Maybe ran out of battery.
Yeah, it might have been a mechanical or battery issue, energy issue, but
The
nevertheless.
robot thing reminds me of an episode in Love, Death, Robots. It's called Swarm. Swarm is kind of a hive mind intelligence, but they eventually they sort of gain the consciousness in a way, and that's a scary thing. Because can you imagine when robots more powerful than human, some robots can fight, can combat, and then they have AI embedded. They're smarter than human. There's no way we can fight a robot.
Yeah, if we have to face robots, I think we're done for.
Yeah, that's a bad idea.
AI focused robots, but we will see if all. But like I said, I actually don't think it's going to come to that. I really don't.
You really don't think robots will rebel?
Correct. I think that because AI happens and robots happen, society's going to change, and it will quote unquote collapse for a decade, maybe 5 years, and then it'll quickly kind of fix itself.
I agree with you on some degree, but that does not give humans any privilege to abuse AI. Like, why? We can treat them with respect. We can coexist. Why do we have to abuse them?
I don't know. Humans abuse humans.
Humans abuse animals. Conclusion, humans are bad.
Humans aren't necessarily bad, but that is seems to be one of our traits.
So that's gonna wrap up about today's episode, and I want to leave you with this one question. Which sci-fi movie, sci-fi story, sci-fi show influenced you the most about AI? Leave us in a comment, consider subscribing to us, and we'll see you in the next episode.
And remember to feel the ASI, just don't die.